Hello, everybody. We are the Geeks and the Degenerates. I am Enzo. This is my forever co-host, John. And today we wrap up our, unique movies involving martial arts, or unique pieces of cinema. Because we did Monkey Man, we did, what we do? We did Old Boy. I'm forgetting, just like Daisu. Oh no! And now we're doing The Crow, the original movie from 1994, starring the late great Brandon Lee. And this is the movie that infamously he died in. So yeah, and they finished it in his honor, like you've seen in the credits. But yeah, this is directed by Alex Proyas. And before we get started, have you ever interacted with this movie before this video? No. All right.
This is my first time watching it, and yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, right?
it is an interesting movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm sorry, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but like I was trying to pinpoint the part where I'm like, where's the part where Brendan Lee died? Just like I'm like, what shootout was it?
It's just
I'm just trying to like, is it here?
we'll get to it when we get to it. But yeah. Oh, it also stars Ernie Hudson from, of course, Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it does. And oh, not just Ernie Hudson, Tony Todd's here as well.
Tony Todd? Yeah, Candyman. Right, he's here. He's like the right hand of Mr. Top Dollar.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's his name.
yeah, well, the actor's name is Michael Wynn Scott. The character's name is Top Dollar. But yeah,
Yeah, no. But
yeah, I'm sorry, I thought you were confused for a bit. But going to end this movie, like you can really tell that this clearly came from the 90s. You're like, ah, yes, I remember this aesthetic. You're in a city that it never stops raining. You're like, don't know which is more flooded, Gotham or this city, whatever this city is.
yeah, and like every October 30th, it's not Halloween, it is, what was it, like Devil's Day or something?
Yeah, where crime goes haywire. It's like the Purge going
Yeah.
on steroids because it's only in Halloween. Because they're like, fuck it, anything goes. But yeah,
Yeah.
as said in the opening by Sarah, like sometimes, usually when a soul dies, they go straight to the afterlife. But something so terrible happens once in a while that they don't go to the afterlife, but they're here to stay to collect vengeance, and that is what Eric Draven does. Because he and his girlfriend are killed, and like it's not just like wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. It's just like a very graphic assault on both of them, especially Shelly, if I'm being honest. But like she dies, and like he comes back as the Crow, and like even I'm sure this is one of those, like if you have like a graphic or like a wallpaper of like what movies in the 90s were, the Crow would be in that wallpaper because he just looks so cool, and you're like, that looks so 90s. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He is this immortal hero who's going out killing the people who wronged him and Shelly with a vengeance, and not gonna lie, the kills are pretty satisfying.
Yeah, not gonna lie, it is pretty good. Like, I do love the action scenes, or like the when he does get a hold of like one of the men involved.
Yeah,
And like that's pretty much it. It's like these guys came into the room, did horrible things, and they happen to die in the process.
yeah,
By the way, I appreciate that because like they're not like this bullshit like, oh, let's go down crime alley, you know?
yeah,
You're like, okay, but yeah, so like they're clearly in their own home, and shit just happens, and yeah, he just comes back with a vengeance, and I fucking love
yeah,
how he just dispatches everyone. But of course, this kind of just leads into like, how these guys work for this guy and this guy works for that guy.
yeah.
I'm like, oh shit.
Right?
So it becomes bigger than it is, and then I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah. And like the first few kills, like one guy he just stabs multiple times, and you're like, that's funny. Well,
Yeah.
he loves to play with knives, so he got what he deserved. What was coming to him. The other guy, Mr. Fun Boy, he makes him overdose 1,000
Yeah, I was gonna
times.
say, I was like, yeah, like he keels over and there's like needles all over him. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then like we find out that like the lady that he was with is like Sarah's mom,
Yeah.
and like he kind of like talks to her like, "Hey, wanna be a better mom? Come after you."
Yeah. Like, really, the few characters, not that there isn't character development, but the standouts are like Eric, Ernie Hudson, and Sarah. And maybe Top Dollar. Like, even though Top Dollar's like those cliche comic book villains, you're like, alright, you're just a cliche mob boss. But a samurai sword for some
Oh,
reason, you're like, okay.
I, I didn't find him a great. I didn't find him as a great villain. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. You're
He
like,
was a very generic like, because he gave this stupid speech of like orders lame. Yeah, like chaos and mass destruction. That's cool. He pretty much. I'm paraphrasing, but like, that's pretty much what he said. And I'm like,
yeah.
I can't take you seriously because now you're just a cartoon.
Right? Uh, Speaking of cartoons, like a lot of the villains here are cartoons. Like, let's be honest. Like, the only one who's like straightforward is Tony Todd, and even he's just like disposable by the end. You're like, okay, sure.
I will say, um, like I'm a little bit underwhelmed since this is my first time watching The Crow. I really thought he was kind of like Spawn.
Oh,
Like, he's kind of ethereal, kind of like, oh, he is larger than life. The spirit of the Crow goes into him and like he starts taking out people in like his own superpower. No, he's just like, oh, I'm resurrected, edgy Deadpool, and I'm like, oh,
right. It's
okay.
like you're expecting something like, yeah, like Spawn or Ghost Rider. You're kind of like, I thought there would be more, but like Brandon Lee does such a good job of making Eric Draven, the Crow, so captivating. You're like, I can't take my eyes off you though. Like,
Yeah, like the man has charisma, which I think kinda is a bit weird for me.
hmm,
I'm not saying his acting was bad. I'm just saying it was a bit of an odd thing where he's like kind of throwing jokes back and forth with like Ernie Hudson,
yeah,
where he was like, I thought you, I told you to stay behind me. And it's a bit weird because he is supposed to be like dark, brooding. He is this vengeful spirit. He's not a person. He's a spirit.
yeah. And you're
And
like, the
I'm like,
spirit is
I just
pretty
can't.
lighthearted, apparently.
And how like how Brendan Lee kind of portrays him. He's very lighthearted. He's kind of like, I can talk to this guy pretty easily. He's in a band, probably cool.
Right?
Like there's a scene that, not gonna lie, shit was cool. As a 90s movie, like he's like ripping it up in the rooftop and then like he just smashes it. I was like,
Yeah.
damn.
Also, like the killing spree he does with the mobsters at the table. It really reminds me of that. I see where, what's the name of the movie? Punisher Warzone got its inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so sick. Like him like doing the whole like double gun thing. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he goes underneath the table and it's like pulling guys underneath. I was like,
Yeah.
that is so sick.
Right. He also has this, I guess, penance there that's, I guess, a one shot because he can absorb the memory of people's pain because he got that from Ernie Hudson, and then he killed. That's how he kills Top Dollar by the end. And you're kind of like,
Yeah.
why didn't you do that from the start though? Oh well.
Oh well, no, that's fine. But yeah, it is kind of a penance there. Like
Yeah.
all the instead of like all the souls that you damned, you're like, remember all of the things that you did wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially to my girl, and you're like, oh, that's horrible. All right, at least they're getting their comeuppance. But like, you mentioned what's. I'm sure people are like, oh, where's the scene where for Brandon Lee? It happens to for Brandon Lee. I think it's the scene where Eric is killed and thrown out the window. Because I remember, I don't remember the exact story, but I remember the gun was supposed to have like a blank, but like,
Yeah. There's
So-
a piece of like plastic that came and like
yeah,
got lodged it and got launched into Brendan.
yeah,
And there were some scenes here that I kind of guessed that, oh, he's not there.
yeah,
Where Sarah comes in, and like she picks up Gabriel, and then she walks around and she's like, "Oh, I guess you're not here." And he comes up behind her,
yeah,
but like entirely blacked out,
yeah,
and you could tell that like, oh, I don't think that's him anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said in the beginning, they finished this film for him, and it's in his honor, and like that's why everybody's so opposed to the new Crow movie with Bill Skarsgård because it looks like a generic action movie, and they're like, that kind of damages this film because like we did it for Brandon Lee because it was this passion project, and now you're just like Hollywood again. It's like, oh well, no well, let's do it again because we need money.
Well, not gonna lie, this isn't the first time Hollywood has done that.
Yeah,
There were other different crows after Brendan Lee.
yeah,
So I, I'm like, okay, and they were kind of like nobodies ish. There were some actors there that I think we knew, but the majority of it was kind of like very B movie esque.
yeah,
And then now we're getting one with Bill Skarsgård, and I'm like, I would say he's an amazing actor,
yeah,
and he's been in a lot of movies that are like critically acclaimed. So why not give it a shot? It might be an action movie, but that's what The Crow was,
yeah,
and like it looks great from the trailers I've seen and how Bill Skarsgård is like portraying it. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
why not? So I would say it won't be a bad film. I would say give it a shot, and if it's like the new generation's way of like introducing other people to The Crow, then so be it. The Crow is an okay for me. For me, sorry. Death aside, it was an okay movie.
Yeah,
So like, if this one's gonna be like, better equipped and hopefully does not kill like the main actor,
God forbid.
knocking on wood for that one. Like, why not just give it a shot? Who knows? It might, in the honor of Brendan Lee,
Yeah,
might be able to tell his story a little bit better. You know?
yeah. But yeah, I would say it's a very interesting film because, like, as you pointed out, like you're not too into it. Other people, it's their favorite. It just points to the fact that films are just subjective, and like you like what you like, and like there's no denying that this movie has made its mark, and like the comic book industry. And it started with this indie comic where, as you can see, the art's very
Yeah.
stylistic.
It's very animated.
Yeah. So like I do like the fact that this might have been the start of like giving indie comic movies a shot. Now we have like things like The Boys and Invincible, and of course The New Crow, and like there are other indie comics getting their start soon. I just forgot the titles, but like, it just continues the trend of like not every comic book movie has to be Marvel or DC. It can be other stuff, which I do appreciate. But like, yeah, it's a good movie for me. I like you, I'm not too into it, but like I do like putting it on once in a while to be like, I just want to see a cool 90s movie that's very, would you say emo or gothic? Those are kind of the same. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say more gothic
yeah,
because emo is not. I don't think you should compare emo and gothic. In the same
yeah.
Well, like it's very gothic. Like I do like that style, and like if you are into it, this might be your movie.
Yeah. But yeah, anything else to add for The Crow?
No, no.
Yeah. Let's go to our ratings. What would you rate the original The Crow? I don't know. I was like the original Crow. No, it's called The Crow. You fool.
I would give it. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10.
Hmm.
Like it's not a bad movie, but like, and okay, I got like it is probably one of the great '90s movies.
Hmm.
Like great comic book '90s movies, because majority of them are kind of cheesy, kind of campy, and it's like for sure it wasn't taken seriously. And then here comes this like indie movie that's like, hey, oh sorry, indie comic book that like was like, hey, we want to make a movie with Brendan Lee in it. And they go at it, and like it works out very well. And comparing it to other '90s, sorry, I shouldn't compare, but I am comparing it to other '90s like comic book movies. This one is taken very seriously, and I appreciate that. I I would say I do have a problem with a big factor with this movie. It's too fucking dark. Like not in a sense of like, oh, I can't handle that concept. I was like, no, I can't see.
Right?
A lot of the times I can't see the shit that's happening. Even with like I watched this at night, by the way. Even with like the lights closed, I was like, I'm like, what's he doing? You know, and but yeah, put a little bit more light. Um, Other than that, Brendan Lee did an amazing job. Everybody else did an amazing job. The villain is a little,
Hmm.
I will say, and the goons was. Okay, by the way, there was that one goon that I hated. He had one scene. He started rambling on and like, "Oh, you killed everybody, man." You know, like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and I could and a single word he was saying. Thank God mine had subtitles. And I was just like, man, shut up. If I swear to God, if I was like, what was the name?
Top dollar.
Top Dollar. I was about to say Pennywise or Money Penny. But I was like, if I was Top Dollar, I would have instantly just pulled out my samurai sword and just stabbed them. Like, man, I really can't handle how you talk.
Right. Like,
Like,
please just shut up. I'm begging you.
yeah, and like, and there is no continuation to the Crow. Like, he did his job, and then that's it.
Yeah.
He passes on. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I guess I thought that was the story of the Crow, is that this spirit, whoever is wronged, um, the Crow will like come in and possess them, and then like he will go out, take his vengeance until he's done and then goes. And I really thought that was the case. I guess not. It's just for Eric.
I guess.
Alrighty. But he doesn't continue. He doesn't go off and like, oh, there are other souls to be avenged.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, all right, I did my job.
Yeah, he's like,
No.
that ain't my problem, homie. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a 7 out of 10. It's above average. It's not bad, and I fairly enjoyed it. Will I say it's my favorite movie? No. Is it a bad movie? No. So yeah.
Okay. I shall give this a 7 as well. I think it's a good movie. Again, it's one of those. It's a very good 90s movie. Like Eric Draven, how Brandon Lee portrays him is very captivating, and he's the sole reason to watch this movie, in my opinion. And like there are other characters who are just fine, like Ernie Hudson or Sarah. And yeah, the villain is not the best. Yeah, he's not the best in general. So are his goons. Like they're just again over the top, cliched villains. But like just the aesthetic and how Brandon Lee portrays Eric and the Crow, you're like, all right, I'm in it for them. And I think this is a very fitting way to honor Brandon Lee's memory, this film, and how they finished it, and like after the tragedy that happened. So like I'm glad they got to finish it, and I'm glad it's remained. I would say it's a classic. For 30 years later, it still has its legacy. I think I read somewhere that Heath Ledger was inspired by Brandon Lee's Crow. I'm like, all right, that kind of makes sense. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Brandon Lee was kind of like, hey, I'm from a band. Well, while Heath Ledger's Joker, is like, I will blow up the city.
Yeah. You're kind of like one of these things are. It's not like the other, but sure.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah. Is there any? Same question as always with like underrated comic book movies. Is there any underrated comic book movies you think we should do aside from Edward Norton's Hulk?
Uh,
I would like to do their Ben Affleck.
yeah. Okay, if we're gonna do 90s superhero movies, you're gonna hate me for this, but let's do Steel by Shaq.
I really don't know how that has anything to do with Steel or Superman or DC in general, aside from the fact that Shaq has a massive Superman tattoo here.
Yeah. I love it that you're like, let's get this 7-foot piece and just like put him in a suit that just looks like cardboard.
Yeah. And just call it Steel.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a comic book, but like, I don't know. Wasn't it? Early Dread. You know, the first Dread.
Sylvester Stallone. Sure, we can do that. Why not? Why not do Mr. I Am Allah?
Oh,
Why not? I mean, we did the first Dread. I mean, the 2012 Dread, so why not?
yeah.
But yeah, anything else to add before we wrap this up?
No. Good.
But yeah, that's been our video for The Crow from 1994. What do you guys think? What's your favorite 90s or early 2000s comic book movies? Please comment down below. If you like our videos, please leave them a like, subscribe, and ding the bell icon to get notified of when we upload next. We're also on Spotify and TikTok to see our best and funniest moments, and Spotify to hear us on the go. Individually, I'm Zoda's Voices on TikTok and Wolf on Letterboxd. Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at JohnGM_ on Instagram. It is my article.
And until the next time, we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
So.